Hey everybody, Jeffrey here with our NetTouch screencast number 2. Now, if you watched last week, I showed you how to create your first simple, maybe not real-world plugin, but it showed you how to begin thinking about turning your methods into a plugin that can be reusable for many people. So today, I'm going to show you a plugin that's already created and just some amazing ways that you can create a featured content section. So let's go ahead and get started. This could run maybe 15, 20 minutes at the most. The plugin that I'm going to show you today is called jFlow. Now, if you remember a couple weeks ago, Chris Coyier created a tutorial on the Coda slider. Now, this works actually very similar, but at least in my opinion, it's a little bit more simple. There's less divs, and it's just easier to wrap your head around it. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to visit the jFlow website. Don't worry about the URL. I'll attach it to the associated article on NetTouch. So the very first thing, we need to download the JavaScript file, which is right here. As far as usage, you can go through this on your own time, but I'm basically going to go through it for you. But be sure when you're done with the screencast to visit the website and just review it a little bit more. So after you have that, you also need your jQuery core library. So if you don't have that, you can visit jQuery.com. And you can download the minified or the packed version of jQuery. And that's all we need. And to give you a quick example of what we're going to be building, as some of you may know, I recently took over as a site manager for ThemeForest. And as I was browsing some of the available themes, I came by Justin, and he's actually created some amazing themes for us. If you click on the Business Professional package and click on Live Preview, okay, you'll come to his website, and I'm sorry, I just don't have much real estate on the screen, so I can't get all of it. I think he's got about 980 pixels, unfortunately, and I'm in Chrome, and I can't zoom out. But if I click on the left and right tabs, we get this nice scrolling feature. So this could be used for pictures or a content section. Whoops. So you click on left, it scrolls to the left. You know, it's just a nice, simple, elegant way to create any kind of tab system. This can be information. This could be step-by-step, instructions, step 1, step 2, or in this case, it can just be images. So it's just a really nice and easy thing that you can implement into your websites, or if you're designing for ThemeForest intent, you can implement this into your themes, because it's something everyone seems to want lately. So let's go ahead and build it. I'm going to go in, and I just have a blank project with my 2 JavaScript files. I'm going to drag in both into my head tag. Oh, it's so hard to work on this small screen. Okay, first we're implementing our jQuery core file and then the jFlow. Now you need to remember, make sure that the core file comes first. Otherwise, if you're trying to import the Flow JavaScript file before the library is loaded, you're going to receive a bunch of errors, needless to say. So let's go ahead and import some images. Okay, and I've imported an image folder. Just has a bunch of random images. Whoops, how did that get in there? Okay, we just have image number 1, 2, 3. Those are actually the exact photos that I just showed you in the theme. And then I have 2 little fun next and previous buttons. So let's go ahead and create the HTML. I'm going to create a wrapper div. And first, we're going to create a div with an ID of controller. And within this controller, this div is what's going to hook into the jFlow. So we'll be grabbing this element and calling the jFlow method. And within this, if you think of it this way, we're going to be adding the individual tabs into this div. So what we're going to do is we'll do span jFlow control. And this needs to be that specific class name. If you want to change it, you can do it in the parameters section when you call the method. But we'll just keep it a jFlow control, that's fine. And then we'll just call it number 1. Okay. Now, for as many tabs or slides as I'm going to have, you need to have the same number of span tags with the class of jFlow control. So, for instance, in this case, for each tab, we're just going to have an image. So we have 3. I need to make sure that I have 3 of these. 2 and 3. Okay, next we're going to create our previous and next buttons. So I'm going to give the div ID of prev next. This is just a random ID name. There's nothing important to it. It's just something. It's just a wrapper for those buttons so that I can move them anywhere I want on the page. And I'm going to add my next and previous images. Alt of previous tab. And now we're going to add a class to each one of these buttons to let jFlow know what our previous button is and what our next button is. So we'll give it a class of jFlow prev, and then a class of jFlow next. Once again, if you don't like that name, you can change it in the parameters, but the default names are jFlow next and jFlow prev. Okay, that's good for there. Now, let's create our slides. So I'm going to do div ID equals slides. Now, within the slides, we're going to create a children divs. So let's go ahead and create one. And within each of these divs will be our content for each tab. So as I said, we're just using images like Justin did in his theme. So I'm going to drag in one. A little bit. Give an alt of photo. And you know what? Later down the road, we might want to add some text also. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and do that. This is photo number 1. Neato. Okay, that should be good. I'm sorry, the screen size is just driving me crazy. Okay, and we'll add 2 more. Now, here's the thing to remember about the slides div. Auto-formatted a little bit. For as many tabs as you're going to have, so as many children divs of the slide, you need to have the same number of span classes of jFlow control. Okay, so in this case, I have 3 images, or 3 tabs, or 3 slides. And if we go back to our controller, I also have 3 jFlow controls. So if I decide I want to add 2 more images, so 2 more tabs, I would add them down in our slides portion. But I'd also go up here and add a number 4 and a number 5. Okay? That's very important that you remember that. The next step, let's see if I can clean this up a little bit for you here. Just don't have much real estate. Okay, and let me see, that might be all we need. Yeah, I think that's all we need. So let me go ahead and it's always good to add this. A lot of you don't, and I highly recommend it because when you start getting into more complicated websites, you're going to wish you labeled some of your divs. And I've heard many people say it's their pet peeve when people don't. So it's just a good practice to do so. So the next step, actually, let's go ahead and run this in the browser to see what we have. Okay, so obviously it looks terrible right now. If we have our buttons, we have our tabs, no functionality yet because we haven't actually written our JavaScript, and our images are just on top of one another. So let's get into the scripting. I'm just going to do inline scripting to make this easier, and also when you view the demo, you can just click View Source if you want to go over what I wrote. So let's add a script tag, type equals text/JavaScript, and when the document's ready to be manipulated, we'll insert our code. First, remember I told you earlier, this div with an ID of controller is going to be our hook. So we're going to do get div with an ID of controller, and we're going to call the jFlow method. Now, the jFlow method accepts, I think, like 10 parameters. We're just going to go through 3 or 4. The first parameter is going to be slides. Now, basically what that's asking is, what is the ID of your slides container? And if you come down here, I just named it slides, but I could name it Rick if I wanted. And then I would come up here and I would set slides to Rick. But we're keeping it simple, so we're going to call it slides. Separate each parameter by a comma. Next, we're going to set the width and the height. Now, these 2 properties are required. Now, what I've done here is I know that I'm simply going to have images for each tab, and I know that the image's width and height are 980 by 313. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the width and height values of my controller to those values, so it'll be perfect. And you can use percentage or pixels. So we'll do 980 pixels. Height is going to be 313 pixels. And that should be it for our scripting. So let's go ahead and run it in the page again and see if anything's changed. Oh, and whoops, I need to add the pound sign for the CSS selector. Okay, let's run it in the browser. And now you can see it's hidden those additional tabs. And we have our number 1, number 2, number 3. Those are the span tags within the controller div. And then we have our left and, our previous and next tabs. And let me zoom out now that I'm in Firefox to make this a little easier. So I hit the right and it scrolls to the next. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Did I not rename those? Whoops, sorry about that. I'm doing this from scratch. Okay, let's try that again. Go to next, and already we immediately have that functionality. It really didn't take that much work. Isn't that amazing? So also we can but we can go to any tab we want. So I can go back to the first tab, second tab, third. If we go back to Justin's theme, he didn't implement that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hide that. So what we can do is div ID of controller, give it a class of hidden. Now the reason I'm doing that is because it's required by jFlow. So otherwise I would just completely get rid of the div. But jFlow requires that, so if you don't want that functionality, just hide it. So the next step is I'm going to create a CSS file. And I'm going to add a style sheet. We'll just call it default. And let me go ahead and drag that into our designer. Okay, and let's just add a little bit of scripting first. But you know what? Let's do that using the Web Developer toolbar for Firefox, so it's a little more, a little easier for you to understand. So first thing that I want to do is, just to make it look a little bit nicer, for those of you that don't care, the functionality's already been demonstrated. So here I'm just going to style it a little bit more to make it look a little more pleasing. First, to the body element, I'm going to set a background color to our NetTouch black. It's going to be 1A1613, I believe. Yep. And let's just set the color to white for now. And next, If you remember, I applied that hidden class, so let's go ahead and create that right now. Display equals none. Okay, that looks good. And if you remember, I've added a div wrapper to these buttons called prev next, I believe. And what I want to do here is set the margin bottom, say negative 2.5 ems, just to drag it up because I want those just a little bit on the top. And let me set prev next img. I'm going to give it a position of relative, and then I'm going to add a z-index so that it'll come up above those images there. And let's see what else. Okay, so now let's add the text. If you remember, with any slide, I just had some sample paragraph. So let's go ahead and show that right now. The reason it's being clipped off, if you remember, is because if I go to the top, I set the height value of 313 pixels, which is exactly the height of the image. So it's being cut off, but that's okay. Because what I'm going to do here is what we're going to have it show just at the very bottom of this image here, over like a transparent background. So let's give the margin top. Actually, let's not do margin. Let's set the position to relative, and then the top we're going to bring it up negative 50 pixels, and let's give the background color of black. And I'm also going to set a line height of 50 pixels and a normal height of 50 pixels. Okay, let's set the opacity down. This probably wouldn't be ideal, but for this situation, it's okay. And, excuse me, for Internet Explorer, I remember it's filter alpha opacity equals 70. Let's change it to 70. And what I want to do is I want to get this text so it's perfectly vertically centered within that little, within that tag. Oh, you know what? I think it's because by default paragraphs have some automatic margins. Yeah, there it goes. If I had added a reset file, that wouldn't have been an issue, but that's okay. And let's add a little bit of padding. Okay, so now I'm going to, actually let's raise the font size a little bit. Font size 1.5 ems. And set the font family. Okay, so if I click the next one, this is photo number 1, neato. This is photo number 1. Did I not go and update that? I am so sorry. Just to show you it works, go ahead and refresh it. And add our code back in. So I'm going to hit next. This is photo number 2, neato. This is photo number 3. Almost there. The only final thing I want to add is I'd like to have a little hand icon when you hover over these images, but because they're not naturally links, it won't work. So let's go to prev next image and set the cursor to pointer. And now that's working. So the final step is just to make sure it works in all the other browsers. Let me go ahead and copy this into my style sheet, and let's run this in a couple other browsers. So let's view it. I have IE tester open. Now, I went ahead and loaded the pages to save a little bit of time. If you notice here in IE6, we're using 32-bit pings. And IE6, as I'm sure you know, that doesn't work. So we go to IE7, works perfectly. Skip it, everything works wonderfully. But IE6 works fine too, except for this kind of unrelated issue. But let's go ahead and solve that if you're still watching. The easiest method, do a search for the unit ping fix. And you'll come to Unit Interactive. And it's a very, very simple fix. So you click the download button. I actually already have it. And you'll bring up a zip file like this. And all you need to do is drag in the unit.pingfix.js file and the clear.gif file. And I have that right here, so let me go ahead and drag that into my solution. And then lastly, let's go ahead and open this up, and the only thing you need to change is the path to that clear GIF file. And in this case, I put it in my images folder, so it's actually perfect. I don't need to change anything. However, if your image file folder is named img, you'll need to go in here and change that. And believe it or not, that should take care of it. Let's go ahead and refresh it. And there you go. Took all of 30 seconds to fix. Can you believe that? Just on something kind of unrelated. But we are completely done. We have within, maybe 20 minutes or so, and that's with me describing it. So I could do this in 5 minutes. Immediately set up a simple featured section. So for those of you watching on NetTuts, for more information, tutorials, visit nettuts.com. It's updated every single day with tips on JavaScript, CSS, PHP, ASP, pretty much anything you want. We update new screencasts every Wednesday. Speaking of which, for those of you interested in hosting these videos yourself, I'm currently looking for people to create video tutorials. And also, be sure to check out themeforest.net. Whether you're an author or you're looking to buy some to save some time, let's say you have a job for a client that needs to be done in a couple days and you don't have time to create a wonderful theme, you just come to our categories section. The prices are very reasonable, most of them about $10 to $15. Click on business or any category you want, and you can immediately see we've only been open for just a few short months, but we already have hundreds of choices that you can choose from. Yeah, there's our business professional package. This one's actually 20 that Justin created. But also think of it this way. If you're not interested in purchasing a theme, but you're trying to learn, so let's say you come to a theme and you think to yourself, wow, I wonder how we did that. Well, we'll purchase it and download it because people have created help files for each theme that will give you kind of instructions, almost as if you're a complete noob. So think of it in that manner. If you're looking to learn, download it, spend $10, and decode it, and figure out how you can do it yourself. Thanks a lot, everyone. Check back next Wednesday for screencast number 30.